Hi, it's me. You can call me BP. Welcome back to my channel.
BP's back!
My emotional support Oliver is not allowed in my room today because he threw a hissy fit this morning and I'm mad at him.
Stop it. Ouch! That really hurts.
He is, however, on my socks, so at least he's here with us in spirit. And today I'm going to be talking about season 8, episode 13 of 911, entitled Invisible. I brought out the clear clipboard for this one, just to be on brand, because we are so back in terms of all of the calls and the storylines relating to the title, and this one is Invisible, so people feeling invisible. So this episode is very Hen and Eddie centric. All of our calls are also centered around one man named Archie, who opens the episode, and we see him getting fired from this like fast food joint that he's at, and then he goes home, his place is a mess, and he's frustrated, so he cleans the whole thing while he's like waiting for his fiance, whatever. As he's putting away his clothes, it's like a bed frame that like moves, and it's like a storage bed frame, and as he does this, he notices that the sheets are like tied around the hinge or whatever, and he goes to like undo the sheets from the hinge, and then the bed collapses on him and he's stuck in his bed frame, like underneath it. Terrifying. As he's underneath his bed, home alone, he's not home alone for long, because then his fiance comes in and has an affair on the bed that he's currently under. Traumatizing. Poor Archie. His smartphone watch ends up calling 911, and the 118 shows up, and Buck is so giddy that he gets to use the battering ram to enter the apartment. We love to see it. I'm so happy for him. And as they do this, they free Archie from underneath the bed, and this poor man, he's like on strike 1 of 3 of like crash out. If he strikes out, he's gone. Foreshadowing? Yes. We see Eddie, who is cooking dinner on FaceTime with Buck, which we'll get to my thoughts about dinner later, but he's talking about the meat that he's making, and he's basically saying that he like really wants this dinner to be good because he's going to ask Chris to move in with him during this whatever. Eddie also bought tickets to go see the Mavericks in Dallas as like a weekend getaway for Chris, which is insane because El Paso to Dallas is like 9 hours. And so he was just planning this big long road trip. I don't know, after I do long road trips, I don't want to go like do another one. I get it, he's been in El Paso for a month, so like his big ass long road trip from LA was like a month ago, but I wouldn't want to go spend 18 hours in a car over a weekend. Eddie's like freaking out because of the crockpot, and it's not fully done when his parents and Chris show up, and so Eddie's all stressed out about it, and Buck is like, you'll be fine, just vamp, whatever. And so he opens the door, and his parents are there with Chris, and his parents are holding Chinese food, and Eddie is like, I told you I was going to cook. And they were like, oh, we must have forgotten. I have a lot of thoughts about Helena Diaz. I will hold them in until later. I saw someone point this out, which is really interesting, where Eddie's parents are holding Chris's crutches and then just kind of like leave Chris at the door and walk in, and Eddie's the only one who kind of like helps Chris in. And people were like, I don't know if he needs help, but it just kind of was like a stark difference of like Eddie's actually there caring about Chris and making sure he gets in, and his parents just kind of like breeze past him. And as they are sitting at the table like talking about things, what's another really interesting note that I picked up on my second watch of the episode is Eddie is the only one to eat the tacos that he made. Everyone else is eating Chinese food, and I was like, if you don't try a bite of your son's food, I'm Helena Diaz. Count your fucking days. Count your fucking days. In their conversation at the dinner table, Helena basically says like, oh, well, like, did he show you his report card? It's all A's and B's. And Eddie's like, oh, that's incredible. I have a great way to like celebrate this weekend, leading into the whole conversation about the basketball game. Then I think Helena was like, oh, not this weekend, because Chris has his chess tournament in Lubbock. El Paso to Lubbock is 6 hours, which is crazy, but I get it. I think it's like a state chess tournament. I think from the stills, actually, let me look it up. So it just says regional chess tournament. So I don't know what region. Regional chess tournament that takes place in Lubbock for chess players from El Paso doesn't really make a lot of sense, but whatever. But in this conversation about the chess tournament, Eddie's like, oh, well, that's great. Like, I'm excited for you. And then they're talking and Helena's like, oh, well, they like changed the rules and it's like only one parent who can go, which I know I said I was going to hold my tongue about the parents until the end, but I'm going to forget if I don't say it. It really frustrates me that she said parent, because she knows, you would hope, that she is not Christopher's parent, and you would hope that Ramon also knows that he's not Christopher's parent. So she should have said like, oh, one guardian or one chaperone or like one person per player, whatever. Language matters, people, and it pisses me off, right? One person to go, right? Okay. I have had it with this woman. I've had it, I tell you. And it also really bugs me that she like seems to speak for Chris in this scene, and she kind of is like, oh, well, like, Chris, you're excited for it and blah, 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 blah. Like, Chris doesn't speak a lot for himself in this scene, which I found annoying. We check in with Hen, and she has this cute little fashionista montage moment, which is super cute, super fun. Note about this montage, at one point in time, we see her try on a sweatshirt that is like a light blue colored that says Howard on it, right? Realistically, we know that's probably for the school. However, it's the wrong blue to be the Howard Bisons, even though I know that's what it meant to be. That bugs me because it's the wrong blue. So it's not official university merch because it's the wrong blue. They would never sell it in that color. However, I would also like to say maybe it could be fun matching merch that her and Chimney bought together. She has one that says Howard and Chim has one that says Henrietta, and they wore it once together while they were drunk. That's what I would like to believe, just because it's the wrong blue and it pisses me off, and that's the type of person I am. Which I recognize is ironic because right now I am wearing a Yale sweatshirt and this is not the official Yale blue. I fully recognize that. I fully recognize that this is not the official Yale blue. And maybe it's just because this is super old and this could kind of be the secondary burgundy color in Yale's, but this is nowhere near the right blue. I get it. It still bugged me. Also in this montage I thought was super, super cute. They have a framed picture of Nia. They have not forgot about little Miss Nia, and it's so sweetie pie. Hen has her cute little outfit on and she walks out and everyone's just kind of like being a busybody, and Hen's just kind of like, what a great day. And everyone's like, yeah, whatever. And then Mara is like, oh, well, like, good morning, Mama. I look really snazzy because today's a big day. And Hen's like, yeah, it is. And Mara's like, it's picture day. Girl, it's April. It's April. Picture day is in the fall. Right? I always thought picture day was in the fall. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I've been out of school so long. But everyone just kind of goes about their day. And then Karen is like, hey, can you pick up takeout for tonight? Because I don't feel like cooking tonight. And Hen is like, tonight? And so it's clear that they are like missing something. And when I first watched it, I thought it was like Hen and Karen's anniversary. But it's not their anniversary because Hen then gets a phone call from Athena, who wishes Hen a happy birthday. Everyone in Hen's household has forgotten about her birthday. I was giving them the benefit of the doubt that it was just going to be a big surprise party later, but we find out that is not the case. People did forget Hen's birthday. And as she's on the phone with Athena, her mom actually calls her. Turns out it's a butt dial from her mom. Her own mother forgot her birthday. But we do get confirmation that Hen is an April Aries. I guess it's not full confirmation she's an April Aries. We had confirmation she was an Aries a while ago. Hen was wearing something a while ago that said Aries on it, and I always like to believe, until proven otherwise, that the 911 universe is in line with our universe. So it's April in the 118's world. So Hen is an April Aries because the best people are April Aries. And listen, I get it, Hen. I also do get upset when people forget my birthday. We then bounce back to Texas where we see Eddie unloading groceries into his car. And as he's doing that, his mom pulls up next to him and they have like a little discussion. And she makes, oh my God, this woman, I wonder if she's this way with her daughters or just with her son, because maybe that's why we don't see the Diaz sisters in this like little bit, is because their mother is so insufferable that they just don't want to be around her. She makes some comments about like the food choices that are in the cart, being like, oh, it looks like you're preparing for a sugar crash. I hope this isn't what is in your cupboards when Christopher comes to visit. And then Eddie was like, no, when he comes over and we normally just drink and smoke cigars. And Helena's like, no, you deserve that. You deserved that. Then he has this awkward exchange with his mom, basically like asking if he can go with Christopher, and basically just like tells her like, oh, well, like dad can take the week off or the weekend off and I can go, you know, be with him. And Helena's just kind of like, well, you know, we love spending time with him. And I just wanted to be like, shut up, Miss Girl, just shut up. Stop. I literally just put ugh because I cannot stand when that woman speaks. Hen walks into the 118 and she is super excited because she's like, today is my birthday. I'm so excited. And as she walks in, everyone's really excited that she's there. And they're like, oh, now she's here, blah, 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 blah. And Bobby is like, gathers everyone around and he's super excited. And he's like, all right, everyone, today's a big day. Today is Hen Day. And Hen is like, yeah, it's me. It's my birthday. And then Bobby like pulls back the sheet on something and he's like, the high efficiency nozzle day. And Hen is like, what? No, it is my day. It is my day of birth. Celebrate me. No, not nozzle day. She's upset about that because her other family, her work family, also forgot her birthday. Poor girl. Speaking of people who are not having great days, we see our friend Archie pull into a parking lot because he has a flat tire. He gets out the jack and he starts like trying to fix it, and the little lug nut gets stuck in the little thingamathing. Tire iron, that's the word for it. And he bangs it, and the nut ends up coming free, but it goes underneath a semi-truck. So Archie walks over and tries to pick up the nut from underneath a wheel of a semi-truck. The driver comes back to the truck, starts the truck, and then runs over Archie. Not really running him over though, but like his arm kind of like goes with the wheel. And then some kids are able to like flag down the driver and get him to stop. But then they have to call 911 again, and the 118 shows up and rescues Archie again. And the driver's basically just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see him. Hence the theme of the episode, invisible. The 118 is then able to rescue Archie from the truck, and Hen kind of gives him this whole speech of like, oh, you're not invisible, you're making yourself invisible, but you deserve to take up space. You're allowed to, you know, say like, I matter, and today is my birthday, and it sucks that you forgot it. And Archie's like, but today is not my birthday. And you see the rest of the 118 being like, that was today. Hen's birthday was today and we forgot it. Wow, we're bad people. Archie kind of like empathizes with Hen, is like, I'm so sorry, but happy birthday, Hen. And Hen is like, thanks. And then both of them that share this diabolical look at the 118, basically being like, you bitches forgot, didn't you? We get another FaceTime call between Buck and Eddie, and this time Buck is calling Eddie. And the contact picture that Eddie has of Buck is in fact a screenshot of the scene where Buck was talking to Maddie. Like mid-conversation, Buck and Maddie in Maddie's kitchen. And people were like, why this picture? Why this picture? What the hell? Eddie answers the call and Buck is basically like, what is Hen's favorite type of pie? And Eddie is like, oh, you forgot her birthday, didn't you? And Buck is like, yeah, did you remember? And Eddie goes, yeah, we're Facebook friends. And Buck like kind of rolls his eyes and is like, how old are you? Poking fun at this old man, which the fandom has been very divided on who's older, Buck or Eddie. And people are like, oh, this is proof that Eddie's older than Buck. And I don't necessarily think that's definitive proof, more just like a point of making fun of someone. During this FaceTime call between Buck and Eddie, Buck circles back and is like, oh, how'd the basketball, like, tickets go? Are you preparing to go on your trip? And Eddie's like, no, he actually has this thing that my dad is going with him and like I'm not going and whatever. And Buck is basically just like, well, that's a dumb excuse. Like, you should go anyway. And then, and then great parenting advice from Evan Buck Buckley. He was like, you're his dad. He doesn't have a mom. If you don't damage him, who will? Buck, we don't need to be purposely damaging our children because we're the only person in their lives to do that, right? Right. And Eddie kind of is just like, yeah, well, that's true, but there's like not, like my dad's going with him. Then Buck is like, well, you could still go. You could get an Uber. You're an Uber. And Eddie's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Buck clearly didn't know that the tournament was 6 fucking hours away, because I don't even think you could get an Uber for 6 hours away. That would be so expensive if you could. But then Buck tells Eddie to quote, dad up. And Eddie says, you're right. You're so right. And so Eddie drives to Lubbock to be with Chris for the tournament. We then see Hen come back from her shift, and Karen is sitting there and is like, happy birthday. And then Hen goes, oh, Chimney called you, didn't he? And Karen's like, yeah, I'm so sorry, I didn't. And Hen is just kind of like, save it, whatever. Then there's a knock on their door, and there's a delivery person there with a giant bouquet of balloons, and Hen like gets in. Karen's like, who are those from? And Hen goes, they're probably from Chimney, because he turns to whimsy when he knows he's screwed up. which makes me curious to know what other whimsical things that Chimney has done in the past. No more than a minute later, there's another knock on the door, and it's like a gourmet basket of chocolates from Bobby. And then like 30 seconds later, there's another knock on the door, and Hen yells from the house, just leave it on the porch. And then the door opens, and Hen's mom and her kids walk in, and Hen's mom goes, yeah, I would, but I feel like someone would call CPS. And Hen is essentially like peeved at everyone in her family except for Mara, because this is her and Mara's first birthday together, so she didn't know, but everyone else should have known essentially. And she quite harshly snaps at both her mom and Karen, and then goes and like takes her like silly balloons and her chocolates and kind of pouts in another room. Honestly, I get, as an April Aries as well, I would actually really hate if someone forgot my birthday. We check in with Eddie, who has made the 6-hour trek to Lubbock, Texas. Beware of the Red Raider rash, to see Chris at his tournament. And he's kind of like lingering around, kind of like watching from the sidelines. And there's, I assume, someone who works for the like organization who asks like Eddie to sign in. And Eddie makes a comment of like, oh, it's super busy. And the person who's working there and is like, oh yeah, that's why I always bring my own chair. Hilarious line from the writers, because that character is in a wheelchair. And Eddie like doesn't really react, and I was like, no, that was funny. Good for them. That was a good line. They ask Eddie like, oh, who are you here to see? And Eddie says, oh, Christopher Diaz. And the person who's working there is like, oh, we love Chris. Then they say, there's some seats down in the front by Christopher's father. And Eddie's like, who? By who? Which, in all honesty, I don't necessarily think that Ramon was going around telling people he was Chris's dad. I think people just kind of like assumed based on like the situation. I really don't think that like Chris or Ramon was going around being like, oh, this is my dad, or like Ramon being like, oh, this is my son, right? I think if someone would have said that in the presence of Ramon, I would have hoped he would have been like, oh no, he's actually my grandson. We're just making assumptions here. Fingers crossed. And Eddie is kind of like watching from the back and kind of watching Chris do his thing. And you can kind of see on Eddie's face, he's kind of like feeling a little sus about what's going on with Chris. And then Chris's lunch makes an appearance on the chessboard, which I hated every second of it because I have an irrational fear of vomit. And I literally watched it like this. I literally muted it because I knew it was going to happen because of the stills. And someone was like, oh my God, does Chris throw up? And I'm like, nope. I cannot see that. And as that happens, Eddie runs over to be with Chris, and Ramon is like, oh, here, let me help you. And Eddie's like, no, I got it. Hand me his crutches. And then we see Eddie and Chris in the bathroom, and Eddie's helping Chris clean up. And Chris basically looks at him and he's like, I hate chess. And Eddie tells him, oh no, like, you're just feeling that way because of like what just happened. And Chris is like, no, I actually hate it. And Eddie's really confused about this, and he's just like, well, what? And Chris is like, yeah, I don't like chess. Grandpa likes chess. And Eddie's like, and you love Grandpa. That, okay, got it. And then Chris is like, can you ask them if I can stop playing? And Eddie's like, no, I'm not gonna ask them. I'm just gonna tell them, like, you're my kid. Like, no. We're not asking them. We're just telling them. You're, what, 15, 14? We're just gonna tell them that you're not gonna play chess anymore. In the whole theme of, like, telling, not asking, Eddie then tells Chris, oh, I was gonna ask if you wanted to, like, come stay with me, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm telling you, you're gonna come move back in with me because you're my kid and I love you, whatever. And then Christopher goes, you're gonna be my dad again? I'll put a pin in that. I'll put a pin in my feelings about that for later. But then Eddie goes, I've always been your dad, but it's time I start acting like it again. Now we are on Archie's third strike in life before his big major crash out. He is sleeping in his car and his car gets towed as he's in it. And Archie's like, are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? So as his car is being towed away, Archie's able to grab some of his stuff, and then he starts walking to the bus, and as he does this, some like drunk guys come and like bump into him, and he breaks one of his mugs and drops all of his stuff, and you can see Archie's like wheels start to turn, and he's like, I am done. Everyone sucks. I'm having a bad day and I'm going to make it your problem. And so among the things that he had in his possession, one of them was a kitchen knife block, and he goes and he takes out one of them and then boards a public bus. And he really said, I'm going to cause problems on purpose. So basically Archie boards this bus and kind of like holds people hostage, and one of the guys on the bus, who's the one guy who bumped into him, like stands up and is like slowly getting towards Archie and being like, hey man, like, I'm really sorry I bumped into you. You don't have to do this, whoever, whatever. And at the same time, all of the LAPD are trying to stop the bus, right? And this guy's getting closer to Archie. So the LAPD throws down some spike strips, and then because of that, the bus like lurches and like, you know, obviously has like this stop, and then the drunk guy and Archie are just standing there.
And then he ran into my knife. He ran into my knife too.
One time. The guy literally just kind of like falls into the outstretched knife, and Archie's like, oh my God. And as this happens, the bus driver's like looking behind, and then she hits cop cars, and then the cop cars explode. They were doing too much. They were really doing too much with that. But then the 118 gets called out, and Hen is like, oh my God, this man again. So Hen goes on to treat the guy with the stab wound and kind of like level with Archie. She convinces Archie to let everyone else off, and then she walks out with Archie. And then Archie's dumb ass, literally, they're like walking out and he's like, oh, I forgot, and like reaches into his pocket, and then the cops are like, he's got a gun, and then goes to like shoot him. And I thought Hen was about to get shot. She takes him down to the ground. No one gets shot. And Archie like pulls out a little keychain from the chicken restaurant that he got fired at the beginning of the episode. And he's like, oh, because it's like a hen. Like, for you. Happy birthday. And Hen is like, take this man to jail right now. Right now. Which Athena does. Athena does take him to jail. I am loving the theme that we're having about the characters who are going to be okay, because we end the episode with Eddie and Chris in Eddie's little Prius, Eddie Priaz, who shows back up to his parents' house, and he like goes into his house and starts grabbing things for Chris to come stay just for the night. And Helena's like, what are you doing? And Eddie's like, oh, I'm grabbing things just for the night. We'll come back and get other stuff later. And Helena's like, he's spending the night with you? And Eddie's like, yeah, every night until he's 18, at least. Eddie's basically like, you can't tell me shit anymore, woman. In this conversation he has with his mom, he's basically like, I'm his dad. You're not his mother. You're his grandmother. I appreciate what you've done for him in his time of need, but now it's time for me to be a dad. It's whatever. And then drop some weird lore that I never thought we would get. And I don't understand it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why. Turns out that Eddie Diaz used to be a ballroom dancer. Is this a segue of how I get Ryan Guzman on Dancing with the Stars? I think it is. Weird piece of lore, but basically Eddie's like, this is why I stopped, because you like, he didn't say this word for word, but the sentiment of the argument kind of boiled down to, I'm giving up your dream, mom, not mine. Then Helena makes them dig about him like not going to college, and she's like, you're a driver, like what are you doing with your life? And Eddie's like, yeah, right now I'm a getaway driver. And he takes all of his stuff to the car and he gets in, and Chris just kind of looks at him and he's like, punch it. They're in a Prius, you can't really punch that. But then they drive away into the sunset and it's beautiful, and it's the Diaz boys who are going to be okay. Then we end the episode with a redemption arc for all of the people in Henrietta Wilson's life, and Bobby cooks her a very elaborate birthday meal and it's very sweet. And then we see Buck come in covered in dirt, basically doing free labor for Hen's birthday because he feels guilty about it. And Karen is like, how long are you going to keep him to do this? And Hen's like, until he stops feeling guilty, so we might have him until the fall. I love it. I thought this episode was really good and really fun. One of my favorite things is Eddie Diaz, because he's an Uber driver and an Instacart driver, a single mom who works 2 jobs. We love to see it. We love to see it. We love to see it. Helena Diaz, count your days. I'm sick of your shit. I'm absolutely sick of your shit. Because quite honestly, I don't know why the writers chose to go down this route with Chris and Eddie's relationship, because realistically, while I know that Gavin and his family moved to Georgia, that's maybe why we couldn't have as much Christopher. But like, you could have written this so much better, in my opinion, because unless you just really wanted to make her, Helena, a villain, because you really just wrote her into this villain arc. And I was telling one of my friends that like in clips, if you like really notice that like Ramon is just kind of going along with things, but he's not really like instigating a lot of things. He's just kind of like there and passive, and Helena seems to be the one who's like, this was supposed to be a puppet master. This looks like I'm just sprinkling something, because she does a lot of like talking for Chris, which is really annoying because Christopher is 14 and he should be able to talk and advocate for himself, but she just doesn't anyway. So fucking annoying. And she just seems so judgmental and so rude. I get why Eddie like maybe didn't yell at her when he went back to the house, because he was in a good place with Chris. They just had a 6-hour road trip together, and so they were in a good spot. But if things would have been differently and he would have brought up like Chris moving back in with Eddie, and then Helena would have said something and like would have spoken over Chris and spoken for Chris, that's when I could have seen that she would have gone off on him, right? The way around, he would have gone off on her. And the wording of "you'll be my dad again," crazy, because she seems like the type of person who would just like comment about things and not say anything of like, oh well, he like someone had to say something to Chris, because why would he say that otherwise? Why would he be like, oh, you're gonna act like you're gonna be my dad again? Hold on. And a call from my friend, the one who was in Oliver Stark's DMs. Anyway, don't worry about that. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was icky. I think she's icky for all of this. I think Ramon's a little better than Helena. I'll give him a pass. I know people don't ever want any parents to have any redemption arc, but I'll give him a pass this once. Just this once. Buck's parenting advice of, you're the only person who could like mess him up, damage him, go dad up. Hilarious to me. Absolutely hilarious, because I love that that's Buck's first thing is like, your parents can't mess him up, only you can do that. That's a lie, but still. Yeah, I love that the Diaz boys are coming back to us. Bring them home. Bring him home to me.
Bring her home. Bring her home to us.
What did y'all think of the episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I think the marketing of the promo was hilarious, because it made it seem like the bus call with Archie was going to take up a huge section of the episode, when that was literally just like the ending, like 5 minutes. We love a good bait and switch. We love to see it. When it comes to looking ahead to 8/14, I'm so worried. Here's the trailer for 8/14, Sick Day, if you've missed it.
911, what's your emergency?
There's been an incident in our lab. It's on fire.
Next Thursday,
Dispatch, what can you tell me about this lab?
It's designated for lethal and exotic viruses.
a 911 two-part thriller begins. They're trapped inside!
What can we do? If we raise the door right now, we risk releasing a very dangerous virus on the public.
911 Contagion, new next Thursday on ABC.
If you remember a while ago, I was kind of talking about one of the interviews with Tim Minear, and he was saying that there's going to be a two-part episode in the middle of the season. We have arrived. We have arrived at the first two-part, the third two-parter of the season, and it's going to be 911 Contagion. Crazy. Also, Tim was saying that he was going to draw on another movie later in the season. I think that's what this is. I know there is a movie called Contagion, so maybe that's what it is. I'm really excited for it because the people who are because the people who are trapped inside look like, so Buck's outside and he's like, they're trapped inside, and that one looks like Buck, but that's obviously Chimney and that's Hen, but Buck's on the outside. So we shall see. And is this maybe why we have the bagpipe thing? I don't want to like spoil it too much if you haven't seen it, but is that why we have the bagpipe, because there's some sort of presumed, or is that later? And also Tim was saying that this would feel like a season finale. So like, I get it. I can see why this would, I also think that this is the time of year where we have a break. I could be wrong because I don't know, but we normally have a break late April. So I have a feeling that we're going to air Sick Day and then have like a week break, and then, or it's the two-part. I don't remember because there's always normally a break around this time of year. Also, if you didn't see it, we did get renewed to come back for season 9. Thank the fucking Lord. Buddy Cannon season 9, pray for it, it's happening. Then we had another food theory get hatched from this episode, which is the Crockpot Theory, because in the whenever I say anything with like a noun and then a theory, it makes me sound like I'm like literally insane. And maybe I am. But Crockpot Theory, right? You have to wait a full 8 hours for the beef to be done, not 7 hours and 45 minutes. We had to wait for a full 8 seasons for Buddy to be canon, not 7 and 3, right? Right. So what I'm hearing is Buddy Cannon season 9. Right. Welcome back, Lasagna Theory. We're just rebranding. God, what are we doing with our lives? I love being able to just connect strings that aren't there in my brain. I don't know. It's fun. I love it. Keep it coming. Let's make another mention about Crockpots. Yep. Also, the day of filming this is April 4th. Happy April 4th to those who celebrate, aka the day that Buck kissed a man for the first time. Happy Buck Cannon Bye Day to all of those who celebrate. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you can do so down below. Leave a like. I will see you in my next one when the 119 potentially releases a virus throughout Los Angeles. We shall see.